All right, cool. What's good? What's good? Yeah, so it's been a minute. We were just saying to each other, we haven't seen each other face to face in a little while, but it's good to see you, brother Brett. How you feeling today, my friend?
I'm alive. There's the first blessing.
Look
I can
alive,
breathe.
look alive.
There's the second blessing. And no, man, there's been some good energy coming through. I feel like with all the things going on, it's opening up some opportunities. I think for chiropractic, I think for humanity, for a lot of different things. So for me, I think it's exciting time if you can move past the stress of it all, and that's going to take what we do as chiropractors, adaptability. So yeah, man, it's a good time to
Mm-hmm.
be alive.
Yeah, so the reason I had you on today is because we're launching this pre-Chiro podcast, which just aims to build context for the path and aims to really meet people where they're at, which is outside of chiropractic. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, even if they are in their pre-Chiro journey already, have not really experienced the level of chiropractic that you get when you're in school and when you're training, day in and day out. So today's discussion is really just aiming to provide value for the pre-Chiro student, for the person who's considering the professional path, and who better than somebody who's in the schools, like yourself. So just to start off with, can you provide a little context on what your pre-Chiro student experience was, what you were doing before school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was an athlete all my life. Basically, since I could walk, usually I was playing, kicking some ball or something, right? And so I think I started with soccer, when I was like 2 or 3, AYSO. And then from there, I just became a multi-sport athlete. So it was basketball, it was football, it was baseball, it was tennis. Like we were at the sports complex like legitimately every other day because there's four boys all playing all sports for a long time.
And your
So
pops is from Philly, so I know he was into the sports.
oh, for sure. So he and my mom both coached a lot of the teams. So they were the coach, or they were like team mom or team dad. Like all the super involved in all the sports. So we played a lot of sports, and from that athletic career, just I think we started to become a little bit more of a fascination, at least with performance. So like I was always interested in on the training aspect of how I can get bigger, faster, stronger, and I ended up getting a scholarship to play football in Colorado. So I went out there and I studied exercise science and sports management. And a little previous to my departure for college, my dad was involved in a car accident. He started seeing a chiropractor, and I just remember thinking it was interesting that this guy was helping my dad, and he was just using his hands. And I remember that he also drove like a Corvette that said like spine cracker or something. I forget exactly what it said. It was something kind of cheesy. But I was like, it looks like he does all right, dude. And he does all right, and he's using his hands. It looked interesting. And so it was just always in the back of my mind, I think. And then when I was in undergrad, I just felt like there was still more information I wanted to know. Like I wasn't getting enough. And so then I started looking at the different health professions, and that's where chiropractic started coming back in. It's like, I wasn't into the drugs and surgery thing, and so I looked at a PT, looked at OT, I looked at the osteopath, chiropractor, and the chiropractor made the most sense. For a lot of people don't know, especially for the pre-chiro students, you have what's called portal of entry, right? Meaning that you don't need to have a referral from a medical doctor; that you could be the primary provider. And I thought that was very attractive. And so that piece, and then being able to obviously work with your hands, go anywhere in the world and be able to serve was massive. And what I later came to find out, I guess, which we'll get into, is there was a lot more there than just a physical service. Yeah.
Right, right. So when I initially met you, you were checking out different schools.
Mhm.
And can you speak a little bit about that process of what it's like to research different schools, maybe how you might have been misinformed as to
Yeah.
specifically what you were looking for in the school that you were going to choose to study chiropractic at, and how you were to later learn what was maybe what should have been a higher priority for you?
Yeah. And first, I want to give a shout out and acknowledgement to Dr. Ben Glass, because every single time I tell my chiropractic story, Ben's a part of it, because what Ben did for me on my tour changed my life. So when I was on tour at Life West, Dr. Ben Glass, then student Ben Glass, came and had lunch with me. And while we were having lunch, he started telling me about this book that he was really interested in and been reading called Chiropractic Revealed. And I ended up buying one from Ben. And on my flight home is when I had this big like awakening, reading this quote from a Dr. Pasquale Sirasoli. So to this day, every time I tell my story, I mention Dr. Ben. And so I just want to tell you thank you.
Bro, I was a pre-Chiro advocate back then because just like you, I had my priorities mixed up as to what I was really looking for in a chiropractic school. I made the wrong decision, transferred to the school that I met you at, and I didn't want you to make that same mistake, right? It's an expensive mistake to make. So pre-Chiro advocate then, pre-Chiro advocate now. Appreciate the acknowledgement.
So yeah, when people are looking at schools, I would say one of the most common mistakes is they make their pick based on geography. And I say this because it's just almost always, right? When I go teach now, the majority of the students are from the area that I'm teaching in, right? At least, close. And the reason I say it's a mistake is because the curriculums can widely vary between chiropractic schools. Even if the class load doesn't vary or the subject matter doesn't vary, how those classes are taught can vary quite a bit, right? And so for me, I'm interested in, I think there's a few things to check out, right? One thing to check out is who are some chiropractors, so ideally, maybe you have an opportunity to go shadow some chiropractors, right? And learn at least a few different, so I would say maybe at least 3 or 4 offices and different would be ideal. If you can do more, great. By the way, this is not something that I did, so I'm recommending something that I got kind of lucky with. I did choose California because I wanted to be back in California because I'm a California kid. There was 3 schools there, 1 in Southern California, 2 in Northern California, and then I made my choice based on the energy of being at those campuses, which is one way to do it. And I think there's more. One of the questions that you're going to come about is some will say that they are more evidence-based, right? However, the evidence-based is an illusion. And I'm going to tell you right now, straight up, evidence-based is illusion. When they say evidence-based, it means that they look for medical acceptance, okay? Meaning that they highly value the opinion of the medical doctor. They often end up being more insurance-based models, because an insurance-based model is in more relationship with medicine because of the way that you need to diagnose and or treat people. And so evidence-based is just looking more at medical science, but it is no more evidence-based than any of the other schools. So I want to put that out right now, and I would be willing to talk to any president from any of these schools that claim that they are quote unquote evidence-based in full confidence that I can have a good conversation with them. So with that said, just know that a lot of people like to pitch that and it doesn't mean shit. So from there, you want to look at what type of chiropractors are being produced, what type of offices are they creating, what's their success? Because to me, another thing that people want to claim their success on as a chiropractic school is their board pass rates. So here's another thing to understand about national boards. National boards is a series of tests that are pretty difficult that are required for you to get your license. Now, what is taught in those national boards, especially at the part 1, which covers the most ground, right? So part 1 is 6 categories, and it spans content that you learn for almost 2 years, right? So it's a lot of classes that is basically, getting grouped into 6 categories that requires, again, either a good amount of study or a good amount of intelligence, and both, I imagine. And it has nothing to do with chiropractic, right? Meaning that some of it, and I think there is a spinal anatomy class.
I was going to say, yeah.
There's a physiology, say there's spinal anatomy, but I'm saying so you say physiology, but to the depth that you're getting tested on the physiology It has nothing to do with your actual interaction with the client on table, right? When you say spinal anatomy, yes. And then to the depth that you're getting tested on spinal anatomy is going far beyond anything that would actually apply as a chiropractor. And then there's biochemistry and some of the microbiology and some other ones.
Right.
So what I'm saying is it's possible that you crush, right? You can, I think 800 is a top score on your boards, right? It's possible that you get a 780, right? Or 750 or higher on all your boards, right? And you only need a 350 pass. And you're a horrible chiropractor, right? So that's what I'm saying. So don't hang your hat on, okay, we have awesome pass board rates. We're evidence-based. What I would be looking at is this is about to be somewhere that I'm going to spend the next 3 to 4 years of my life. Is this somewhere where I feel like I'm in synergy with the school, that I'm in synergy with the students that are here? Because you're going to spend most of your time with the students, right? So what's the vibe on campus? Is this somewhere that I want to learn? Is this somewhere that I feel inspired? Is this somewhere where like curiosity and wonder is bubbling up in me? Is this somewhere that I'm falling in love with? So I do think it's important to actually go walk the halls, go walk the grounds, go talk to people, because is there someone that's using similar language to, how I communicate? Is this someone that's going to acknowledge my needs? Is this someone that really cares about me and my growth rather just being another person in the seats that's paying me tuition? And I think, from conversations and communication and knowing yourself, you can start to discover a lot of that. And so ideally, I would say have 3 schools that you want to tour, ideally potentially in different geographical locations. And then also asking mentors, right? So if you have a chiropractor that you love and appreciate, and ask them where they went and ask them where they recommend, because they're probably going to help steer you closer into the right direction.
No doubt. That's great. That's a great overview. You touched on the student culture, board pass rating, alumni satisfaction is another thing that students are looking at. And then, the geographic location. So we talk a lot about chiropractic and being a good chiropractor versus a bad chiropractor. And once you entered into chiropractic school, there were different resources. When I would talk to students that were touring the school, such as yourself, I would say, the reason I recommend this school is not necessarily because of what's inside of the school, but the resources that you have access to as being a student of the school, and people that come to campus that are on fire, that are really willing to share their passion with you and spread the message, spread the light. So can you speak a little bit about what you gravitated towards as a student, and describe a little bit about your path, the different directions, twists and turns, and give somewhat of a narrative of your student experience in chiropractic education?
Yeah, so I've been as an athlete, and before I started, I did get introduced to the philosophy of chiropractic. So that I was telling you that I got introduced to something that went beyond the physical that I wasn't quite aware of before even making a decision to become a chiropractor. So, and so everybody knows there's a philosophy, there's an art, and there's a science of chiropractic. Now, before you get all spun out on, he said philosophy, the philosophy is the why we do what we do. So every single organization, right, every association, every business has a philosophy. Now, whether they're communicating it or not, they have a philosophy. That's why they show up. That's why they do what they do, right? You can often see it in some of their vision statements, purpose statements. Usually a purpose statement would cover more of your why, okay? So philosophy. So there's a reason chiropractors do what they do. There's a science. So there's a study of what we do, of how we do what we do. And then there's an art. There's an application, an expression, if you will, of the purpose of the philosophy. And so when I first started, I was definitely more connected to the physical side of everything. And again, more connected to performance. I started doing a lot of what's called applied kinesiology. So AK, also called PAK, professional applied kinesiology. And so my first about 3 quarters in school, I spent a lot of time in that club. And what that does is basically utilize the body. We can do all kinds of different muscle testing. So I learned how to muscle test almost every single muscle in the body. And then from that, you can interact with the body in different ways. And it was very, very valuable. It helped me learn my anatomy a lot better. It helped me understand biomechanics and physiology a lot more. And this was a club on campus. And I do want to say that Life West always honored different opinions and different perspectives, and open and allowed for a lot of different clubs. That's another thing you might want to look at, right? Is like some of the schools, they teach what they teach and they don't want anything else there. So it becomes dogmatic and it's closed down, and versus allowing for you have your baseline of classes, but then you also have all these clubs that if you're interested in, you can get engaged, you can bring speakers on. And so I always thought that was really cool. So I got really started mainly in professional applied kinesiology, and the person that I was learning from and taking seminars from was also into functional medicine. So I studied a little bit of functional medicine in the beginning, which is basically looking at more, lab work, blood testing, and then looking into supplementation and nourishment. And then also had an element of functional neurology. So those were some of the primaries I was into when I first started. And then what I found for myself was I was getting so much in my head that when I came time to actually work with somebody, I was trying to think through all these different formulas and all these different ways that I could approach them, and and then I would like step back, and I realized I was just missing the connection. I'm not connecting with these people because I'm thinking about so much of all these different pathways of the things that how things could work, and how I might be able to work with them. So I kind of took a step back from that a little bit. And that's when I believe I started training with John Martinez. It was like my fourth quarter in school, and I got interested in what's called concept therapy. And so this is developed by Thurman Fleet, and who's a chiropractor, like real popular in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I started studying concept therapy and what's called zone healing. And zone healing was a lot simpler, right? I still had all the background of knowing how to muscle test everything if I wanted to, but you just read the zones of the occiput. Based on reading the zones of the occiput, you would discover a certain zone that had aberrant tone, if you will. And then from there, you would be suggested a potential places where you could adjust and what system of the body you were working with. And at that time, it was really good for me because it simplified things and it allowed me to stay connected with the person. And so I got into that for a while. And then there was a style of adjusting that was very attractive that Dr. Ben also introduced me to, which was called MLS, which really, when you were observing, again, they also valued connection, right? Instead of torquing systems and then creating a cavitation or pop through torsion, you learned how to adjust systems at ease. And I just remember getting adjusted that way and just feeling so honored in my body. And so I went deep in that. I found mentors that were training that. I trained with students at the school that were doing that. And so MLS became a big focus in my life and expression. And then I got introduced to Dr. Sue Brown, and she's now passed, but I did BGI, which is biogeometric integration, level 1, level 2, and level 3, all with Dr. Sue, which she is the fountainhead of that technique, which is beautiful. And then Jay Comerick, momentum adjusting. If he's got a movie on Amazon you can check out. It's called Life Adjusted. One of the most profound breakthroughs I've had in chiropractic is watching animals get adjusted. Because when you're a student, you start to hear, well, maybe this is working just because of placebo, right? That this is an effect that the mind has, and you kind of second guess it, right? You're always gonna have time for your second guess. You've been there, Ben?
Yeah. No doubt.
So yeah, but then you watch an animal get adjusted. Yeah, there's no fucking placebo here. Like, and it's immediate with animals. So sometimes, you got to take care of a person. They come in, they keep coming in, right? And then you're starting to unwind patterns. But what's really cool about watching some of the animals get adjusted, they might, whether it's a physical problem or other things going on. So one of the things that I witnessed is we went out to a horse farm. I believe it was in Gilroy. And they had a young colt that wasn't feeding. And Dr. J went, adjusted his horse. Within 10 minutes, it fed. I was like, what the hell? Had another one that, I think was experiencing vertigo. It was perfect. And then just getting to see, somebody, Dr. Kamarik's not a small man, but, so 200 something pound man, but these are 1,200 pound animals. And so after an adjustment, just being able to tap the head and see the horse get in this like full somatic wave. And I'm just like, this is incredible. And so seeing the power of chiropractic through animals getting adjusted. And then he also teaches a human adjusting course. And so I trained with him there as well. And you had Dr. Eric Rubin as well, who was big in the BGI world, who would teach some side seminars. I got the lady I bought my practice from, Dr. Jen Wilhelm, was also a mentor, which also had Dr. Kara Waltz. So and Dr. Katina Manning. So I met Dr. Katina Manning while doing BGI 3 in Chicago. And she also became a mentor. So I've got to interact with some beautiful chiropractic artists throughout my school. And then we also had some great instructors at the school. I love Dr. Coleman. Dr. Coleman, he taught what's called Gonstead. So I did both the Gonstead and then took it as an elective as well for advanced Gonstead with Dr. Coleman. Thought he was an incredible instructor. Had some good upper cervical instructors as well. And then the diversified program was good. It's good. Yeah. So you have your core curriculum that you learn in classes, but what I've found is that a lot of times at this moment, I hope it's not always at this, like this, but a lot of times some of the mastery I was looking for, I was getting outside of school and seminars. And what was cool about being in the Bay Area is a lot of those people came through. So that's another thing to look at, based on where your school's at. You can talk to people, there's a lot of seminars that come through here or not really. And is the school open to it or not open to it? Because some of the schools don't even allow you to attend seminar. And a lot of people don't know that. There's schools that if you go to seminar, you get in trouble, and that's how closed down they are. So something to keep in mind. Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole kaleidoscope of mentors, of beautiful role models in chiropractic that you just touched on, and I want to thank you. What I see as a common thread amongst many of the people you just spoke about is how they were all just sharing a path of logic to connect with somebody, to adjust somebody, whether it be a human or a horse, and so many great resources. So if you're a pre-Chiro student, please listen to that back a few times, take note of some of the different people, different things, clubs, techniques, organizations that Dr. Brett just shared with you, and just go and explore for yourself. I mean, that's what we're encouraging you to do, is really spend time before enrollment. Most people are just focused on the short term of admissions and getting into school, but there's really a huge potential that exists before you even prepare for your admissions application. So, Dr. Brett, could you reflect on the possibility of how someone's experience going through chiropractic school could be different if they had a pre-Chiro curriculum or a pre-Chiro program that helped really prime the pump, so to speak, and get them connected to people such as yourself and different places that they might find inspiration?
Yeah. So one of the most common things that I see is that because, chiropractic school can be, intense and dense, that people can lose their purpose along the way. Because again, the game in chiropractic school is passing classes through rope memorization and then passing boards to get licensed. And so that becomes the goal, is that I'm here to pass my classes. And so you show up and learn ways and strategies to get really good at taking tests. And then you learn and evolve strategies to get really good at taking the board test and whatever else is along the way, right?
Right.
And you forget, and you can forget, that you're there to become the best chiropractor you can. And so I believe, a pre-Chiro program, and with support of having, whether you want to call it a co-curriculum or mentors or a mastermind or just a group of friends that are in support of one another of that main goal, which is to be the best chiropractor you can be, it'd be very important. I just taught this in the camp this last weekend. So I go around now and I teach adjusting and self-development.
Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for giving back to the students, because your lineage is so powerful, and what you've been given is not really available anymore. Sue's not with us anymore. Jay and Arno, I think Jay still teaches somewhat, but you and I learned from some true masters that are just not available. So thank you for carrying that torch, and just want to acknowledge all the hard work that you've put in and trying to develop infrastructure to support students. That's definitely along the lines of what this project is about, just taking it a little bit before school, but just to expand the reach, right? Because I want to let you finish your thought, but we really are trying to increase representation and show that there's people from different backgrounds that are chiropractors that are loving life as a chiropractor. And we get discriminated against a lot, and we really want to bring populations into chiropractic that have been discriminated against, that have developed thick skin, that know what it's like to be judged and move forward anyway and try and continue to be the best version of themselves, regardless of what the narrative is. They kind of rise above. So we just want to attract those people into this profession, kind of try and shine a light in this direction, because everybody right now is just looking at medical professions and physical therapy as the end all be all. If you want to be a healer, if you want to be a healthcare provider.
Yeah, man. So to me, chiropractic has an opportunity to be number one in health and healing, right? We won't be number one in disease and sickness. That's not our game, and that's not our philosophy. That's medical's department. So if you really want to study disease and sickness and be around a lot of diseased and sick people and potentially help them stay that way, then you have your choice. If you want to be the vibration of health and healing and help a lot of people discover health and healing for themselves, I believe chiropractic's the choice. And yes, we need some badass motherfuckers that are ready to roll and are ready to withstand the waves of potential judgment and criticism and all the stuff that happens when you're raising to number one. So our diversity will be our greatest strength, because there's a variety of communities and cultures that need chiropractic communicated for them.
Right.
And previously, I think in some past generations of chiropractic has been about the chiropractor.
Yep.
Chiropractic is for the people. And so in order for it to be for the people, we need to diversify the profession. So I'm very glad that you said that. So what I was going in on was what I was teaching this last week. It was a little bit on something on tone, that it's possible for two people to go through a very similar condition, right? All same set of conditions, and have a completely different experience. And this is going to be on the tone of your nerve system, right? So it's possible for two people, same age, same background, whatever, driving down the road, get a flat tire. And for one person, it just ruins their day and maybe even week, right? For the other person, it's like nothing happened, right? It was just like, I just called what I had to call. I might have took an Uber to work that day. I figured it out, right? So what is that, right? And the reason I bring this up is a pre-chiro club can allow you to go into school with a certain tone and a certain perspective that allows you greater pathways to success and fulfillment, right? And fulfillment, meaning that if I go in, right, knowing why I'm there, knowing how to view these classes properly, because it's possible in your student career that in your classroom experience that you start to feel like a victim. It's possible. It happens to a lot of people, right? That it's just like, you feel like, man, I'm being tortured by this shit, right? This is like, I'm in fucking 30 units right now, and like, I'm barely sleeping. I ain't got time for my blah. And it's possible, and you'd be like, I'm being sharpened right now. I'm being trained right now. I'm being tested right now. I got strategies and tools to recuperate efficiently right now. So there's just a different way to look at it. The same thing happened, by the way. You remember this shit, man. When people go in a clinic, and the number one thing people, especially students, right, the student interns, bitching about is paperwork. oh man, I gotta go do all the paperwork. Man, paperwork take longer than taking care of people. That. And I remember all the students were talking about bitching about the paperwork. So what I do, I would honestly do a chant every time I went into the office, and I like start clapping my hands like, paperwork. I'm about to get this paperwork. Yeah, paperwork. I said, work is fun. I love to work. Work is fun, and I love to work. So I just changed my tone to it. I changed the tone until I started basically affirming and programming that I love doing it. And by programming and changing the tone that I love doing it, I started enjoying it. And I said, and I guess I got good at it. I'm all, dang, if I'm going to see a lot of people in this clinic, then I'm going to be doing a lot of paperwork at this moment. So you might as well enjoy it. It's going to be part of the process, right? So a lot of people are always looking at something in the future, right? That when I have this certain accomplishment, achievement, I reach a certain mountaintop, then I'll be happy and fulfilled and da, 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 da. But those mountaintops happen like 0.01% of your life.
Yep.
So you're telling me the other 99.9% of your life, you're just going to be miserable. So then what I suggest to people is, how can you create the most beautiful journey possible? If you know that 99.9% of your life is going to be the journey, how can you start programming and attuning yourself to the higher frequencies of enjoyment during the shit too? Because that's it. This is life. You're going to be challenged, right? And you're going to be blessed. And you got to learn how to appreciate both.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a process to life. I think that chiropractic schools looked at it as an event. You go, you have the experience, and then you're gone, and it's over. But to start seeing this continuum that starts before school and continues after school, that's what we're really trying to help people see, is that school is not the whole process. It's part of the process.
Yes.
It's not about getting your license. It's about serving others. And I love how you put the emphasis on the mindset that you have as you're going through clinic, as you're going through your classes. This project saved me throughout school. I knew when I got to school that I wanted to share this professional experiential path with people that had never heard about it, because I never heard about it until like the last moment. I was just a curious kid that was seeking answers to what would best serve me in my life. And I was attracted to the lifestyle, to the philosophy, to do things naturally. But if a student's going through school, figuring out how can I take from this microbiology class something that can help others in the future, or how can it best serve me right now? How is it best serving me? You know, what are some of the questions that you recommend students think about, like the mindset as they're going through school? You just touched on many of them, but like on a more granular level.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can tell you what I did, you know, that's what I'm saying. It's important there are ways that certain subjects can be taught that relate them to chiropractic. And some schools do that better than others, right? Some schools just feels like, and again, one of the ways you'll know is, are these classes being taught by chiropractors? Are they being taught by medical doctors? So there's schools that the majority of their faculty is medical doctors, right? And if your majority of faculty is medical doctors, they're going to be giving you medical perspective and philosophy, right? Their why of how they look at it. And I imagine their value for chiropractic is pretty low. So are you being inspired in the greatness of chiropractic? Or are you now, again, looking at medicine as a superior? I mean, and to me, medicine is not a superior in regards to health. It's an inferior. Anyway, the way I did it was I started to learn which of my classes I was being taught in was primarily for boards, and primarily to jump through hoops to get my license, right? And then I would also start to understand the tone of my teachers, of when they were talking about test material, they had a certain tone. And when they were talking about stuff that was relevant to boards, they had a certain tone. And when they were going off on tangents, they had a certain tone. And so what kept me alive was, again, my main being connected to my purpose. My main purpose to be the best chiropractor I can be by the time I leave that school. And And so I always had, like yourself, like a passion outside of the classroom. And that's what kind of kept me fulfilled and kept me on purpose, because sometimes the class, it's hard to relate the classes to why I'm doing what I'm doing to become a chiropractor. And so what I would do is I would have usually a book or two that I was reading, and or something that I was listening to, and or research that I was getting excited about. And so at times when I knew instructor was falling off, I would either be training, like actually in the back of the class, doing push-ups, doing strikes, doing squats, doing whatever, like just prepping my body, doing mobility, or I would be reading the stuff that I was passionate about. So it's like I would make sure that I was, again, to me, at the end of the chiropractic schooling program, if I wasn't prepared, it was my fault. That was it. I wasn't going to put it on the school. I wasn't going to put it on my instructors. I was going to put it on anybody else except me. And so I did the things that I needed to do to make sure that I was ready. And so that, and like I said, and by also then engaging in some of the chiropractic principles and understanding the chiropractic philosophy, it can change your lens on how you view the information, right? So if I don't have an understanding of the depth of what chiropractic is and why it's here, then I don't even know how to listen to information. And I think this is one of the biggest things, is like it's more important learning how you learn, right? And being taught how to learn versus what you learn, right? Because the how you learn and how you intake information, how you perceive information, then will filter down to then what is being extracted from that, or the lessons from it. So I think it comes a little prior. And so something like a pre-chiro club that teaches people mindset, teaches some principles and a perspective, and what I call is like a perceptual lens. Like imagine like you could take another pair of glasses with different shades, and then the world looks a little different, and then you can take it and put something else on. Oh, it's slightly different again. And these are opportunities to view your lessons, to view your classes, to view your chiropractic school with a different perception. And some of those perceptions are empowering. Some of those perceptions are disempowering. So how can you remain empowered throughout your chiropractic journey?
No, it's very encouraging. So I want to run a couple of quick concepts by you and see what you think. So as a pre-chiro student, do you think it's too much to ask of them to engage in business activity, to start their own entrepreneurial venture? Could a pre-chiro club be that business that we're asking them to start up? And what do you think about that? Just gaining entrepreneurial experiences, because I think so many chiropractors have the heart, have the clarity, have the confidence in chiropractic, but have never been engaged in small business activity, in, selling a service or a product. What do you think about encouraging a student before they go to chiropractic school to try on that entrepreneurial hat and get an idea of what it's like?
So what I've experienced doesn't mean that's going to be the future. But what I've experienced is most people aren't interested in business until about 6 months from graduating. So even the current student, it's rare, right? And, talking to Dr. Daryl Pratt Blackburn as well, he's discovering that he's saying, as he was teaching at Life West, and I haven't taught at the schools, I've taught around the schools, but what he noticed, because he taught entrepreneurship or entrepreneurism and a business class, and what he was discovering is that a lot less people wanted to be owners. There's quite a few that more wanted to associate or be an independent contractor, so that there wasn't as much interest in the business side from an owner perspective. So at this current moment, based on my current awareness, knowledge, and what I've experienced, I would say the interest wouldn't be as much in the business side. Even for myself, I didn't get really intrigued into the business until I was about 6 months from graduating. That's when I started reading Lona Cook's book, Just Tell Me Where to Start. I read the E-Myth Chiropractor, right? I started reading more business books as I started getting closer, because there's so much to learn, right? Now, with that said, if you had a pre-Chiro curriculum introduced to a business school, or the business part of a university or whatever, I imagine then, are they a business major, that they're going to want to see entrepreneurship as it relates to chiropractic. So that would be an interest there, being like, okay, what is this business like? Because yes, it is a business as well. So yeah, there. But I also then would say that the majority wouldn't be as interested in the business side of it.
They might be intimidated, you're saying?
I don't think it's intimidation. It just doesn't feel relevant because it's so far out versus something that they're going to engage in potentially in the next 6 months to a year, and joining chiropractic school and starting to learn about chiropractic and realizing all. So basically, most people want to train and study what's going to relate to their next step, right? And so the next step is starting chiropractic. So I think what would be most intriguing is learning efficient ways to learn. Right. So here are some like learning strategies and how to learn. I'd want to have some basic underlying principles of chiropractic that helps me with my perceptual lens. I'd want to know healthy recuperation strategies. So basically the 4 pillars of health: movement, nourishment, recuperation, and presence, or some sort of same positive mindset. So how can I learn those things to make sure that I can stay healthy in a program? Because that's one of the biggest things, is that people's energy drops out, they start to get sick or start to get diseased. And so how do I stay healthy, vibrant, and powerful and empowered in my chiropractic journey? So learning about principles of health, learning about some principles of chiropractic, learning how to learn, starting to learn networking. So I think that'd also be interesting, is like, how can I start connecting with other people that are about to engage in this journey, and or finding mentorship? Here are where are some other sources of inspiration? So again, reading that book, which the Chiropractic Revealed was an interview with 20 of the top chiropractic philosophers at the time. And so I got a variety of perspectives. And so how can I be a part of something where I can start to, because again, you don't know, like we've been in chiropractic now for 10 plus years. Yep. So we kind of know who are some of the guiding lights in chiropractic. But when you're just getting started, like it would be weird to me, right? If you hit me up back in my college football days and you said, there's some like famous chiropractors, I probably would have laughed at you. Right. Like, I was like, I wouldn't think like there's some people that but in chiropractic, there's some people that are really well known for doing some things, are being of a certain vibration. And so those that have been in it kind of know who those people are. Right. And so being able to guide and foster the mentorship, whether it be through podcasts or through video lessons, and being able to be a part of a network where you can ask questions, I would say those would be the primary things.
No doubt. What do you think, if we take a step outside the box, about adjusting the profession so that there's shared experiences amongst all chiropractic students that are coming into school, regardless of what school they go to? They've studied the chiropractic philosophy, they've studied the science, they've studied what's available to them within the context of the art, and then they go to chiropractic school. Do you think we'll have fostered like some more mutual respect, some more continuity amongst different students at different schools? Like, they will have a familiarity with each other, because I'm sure you're aware of this. Most schools are not connected to one another. I know you're trying to change that narrative, but if it was just up to the schools, they would be doing their own independent thing within their little bubble. Right. So the second thing before you answer that is, if we're starting new chiropractic schools, because somebody I've spoken to on this podcast already is talking about opening a new school in South America. Don't we need like a language that's for the pre-Chiro student, regardless of which school they go to? They need to be somewhat familiar with what chiropractic is before they choose to go to chiropractic school.
So yes, and the problem you run with that is, based on what chiropractic school the people go to, they've altered the philosophy for their school. So with that said, there is a philosophy to chiropractic, right? So I want everybody to be very careful with this, meaning that just like there's rules and standards to playing basketball and playing tennis and football, like you wouldn't bring a tennis racket to a football field, right? With that said, there's certain standards and there's certain principles and certain guidelines with chiropractic. There are, I would say, actually the majority of schools that ignore the principles, standards, and guidelines of chiropractic and create their own. Right? So what could happen is, like, when we say similar language, similar kind of perception, it would be altered as soon as they entered the chiropractic schooling program, and whatever that school decides to kind of preach as their way. Where you could find common ground is well, I guess it just depends on how you communicate it. To say, these are the chiropractic principles that were set by basically the people who originated and developed this profession. As you enter, based on what school you enter, they may communicate it differently and want you to know that these are where the principles come from. I do believe the health principles are going to be fairly common, meaning that as the way we view the body in regards to natural health mechanisms, I do think that is a commonality between us all for the most part. So yeah, I think there are some things that could help unite and help keep people connected. And I think there are ways to set up styles of communication and networks that are supportive of one another. But here's another thing that we all got to be mindful of is we want to support, diversity in thought in regards to the principles, though, right? Because you get too diverse in your thinking, then you wanted to bring medicine in and everything else and want to play by different rules, and then it's no longer chiropractic. Right. So we got to be able to keep chiropractic while finding a diverse ways to express it. And so I think that's where the artistry comes in, right? So there's infinite ways to express these healing and health and chiropractic principles, but there are principles, and those principles are guidelines. And so they kind of keep the foundation of what it is that we do, kind of almost like creating like this energetic grid of this is the set and form and standards of what this is, and then you find unique ways to play in it. But then you take it too far out and it's no longer chiropractic. So, I mean, a lot of these schools have drifted more towards medicine than they are chiropractic, and I don't support it.
No,
like, just straight up.
Neither do I. So, yes, we got to be proactive. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing proactively to create infrastructure for students to be able to differentiate between chiropractic and therapeutic models of care, differentiate between chiropractic, healing, and health principles, because people tend to just lump chiropractic into, well, I'm going to do whatever I can to help the person in front of me, even if that includes pills, potions, and lotions, and lasers. So can you describe a little bit about the intention right now with the movement that you're a part of, and what's coming out of that movement in the future?
Yeah. So when I was in school, I created something called Adjusting Ninjas. And Adjusting Ninjas was an underground training club that met at 6 a.m. And so I started training as a student. I believe it was like chiropractic specific training, like second quarter, where I started basically writing my own programs, where I started doing interviews. Actually, that was the first thing. And I think the first interview was Arno. So I started doing an interview with some of the people I looked up to in chiropractic, and I was basically just asking them, what did you do to become, one of some of the world's best chiropractic adjusters? And so I started listening to the qualities and the attributes. So, what was important, like presence and speed and agility and balance and power and focus. And so started like getting a lot of these attributes. And then because I'd been an athlete all my life, I always develop training programs for myself. We'd have some that would come from different places, but usually I did it myself. I just look things up, and this is where I want to get better. So if I want to be able to run this a little faster, I want to be able to jump a little higher, if I want to be able to lift a little bit more, then here's the training program to get there, right? Mm-hmm. So now that I had the attributes, I'm like, well, if I need more balance and agility and precision and speed, then how do I train those things, and how do I relate them to chiropractic? So I started doing some drills and And I do these sessions. Then I started inviting people to come to the sessions with me. And then we actually like created something that like met consistently. Anyway, I thought I was going to be done when I finished school. So I did a 12-quarter program. So I finished in 12 quarters. And, at that time, the club had grown to like 30, I think we had 36 in one group and like maybe like 30 in another group. And so, cause we had run in 2 groups at the time, 4 days a week. And I didn't know, right? It was like, was it just me that people were showing up? So I was like, was it my ego? What was going on here? But when I left,
we're starving for supportive structure, right? Like in the absence of structure, what are we really doing except just following along with the curriculum as it was designed by the schools?
Yeah. So I left, and the club continued, and not just continued, got bigger. So what I realized is that we had connected to something. So what I created, and then Dr. Lance ended up coming on and joining to help grow it. Was it's like a 75-minute training session. So we'd go 6 to 7:15. We would go outside and we do some sometimes pretty intense movement. And from the movement, we would go into some breath work and meditation. Following the breath work and meditation, we would do a chiropractic specific warm up. So actually mobilizing and lubricating some of the joints that you're going to use in chiropractic adjusting. And then we go to specific chiropractic technique. Yep. So it was a formula. It had structure. It progressed. We progressed as a group. We would start a new quarter, and then we would go through and so there was other training clubs that existed. One of them was MLS. And then John Martinez had his group. And so there was a couple other groups on campus. I would say that what we did really, really well was we systematized it. We programmed it, and we had to be progressive, meaning that you had a formula. You couldn't be late, you couldn't miss, or you were out. So it was also pretty, it was highly accountable. And so I left, it continued to grow. And that's when we started doing what we call training camps. So now we go do 2-day seminars. It's almost 18 hours of training in 2 days. It's intense. But I've traveled the world. I've been to, I don't even know how many different countries now, taught almost 200 training camps, and got an opportunity just to be around a lot of chiropractors and a lot of chiropractic students. So one of the structures that we have for evolving, helping evolve chiropractic and evolve human consciousness is what's called Kairos training culture. So that's the new name, which changed names. I think it was like 2014 from Adjusting Ninjas to Kairos training culture. And we teach a level 1 training program, which focus more on facet level adjusting and how to have sustainable postures as a chiropractor, and how to learn how to utilize your body to deliver power and speed. And we have a level 2, which goes more into disc level adjusting. And from the disc level adjusting, now working more mental, emotional intelligence and awareness as a chiropractor. And then level 3, we go into spinal cord attuning through waves and spirals and fractals and all this kind of go a little bit more out there, but more subtler approaches to the spine. So not big adjustments, but how to make gentle connections, utilize breath, utilize movement. And then that goes into, larger forms of connection. We also do a facilitator training camp where we take a lot of the club representatives and we go and we do a 4-day immersion. We also have Kairos Business Mastery, which is a business development program, which is transitioning to chiropractic students. And the Source Chiropractic, which is my practice that we have in Oakland, California. There's also another one in Denver, Colorado, led by Dr. Darren Murphy, is now in the process of becoming a franchise. So what we're doing is we're taking the system that we've been teaching for the last, about the last 3 years to a variety of chiropractors. We're standardizing it. We're creating an operations manual, going through strategic planning sessions, and then going to have an offering where now a representation of excellence in chiropractic, one form, will be through these Source Chiropractic centers around the globe. And so there's another form of a system, that could be utilized. But yeah, what I've learned is good systems allow you to get out of your own way, to get out of your own head and really serve from your heart, right? So if I'm in a business or if I'm in a practice or I'm in a whatever, and I don't have clean systems, there's often things that are coming up where I don't know what to do, and I'm having to waste a lot of my mental energy on them. I'm getting stressed out. Things are less in flow. But when you have great systems and you know what to do when things come up, and you have good support, and you know how to properly schedule people and all the things, then I can just be there and be in service. And I think in the beginning, and I do want to make this, I mean, maybe they'll hear it, depending on what level you're at, and then in your journey and where you're at in your path. But in the beginning, I personally, because I valued artistry so much, I think I had some disdain and distaste when I heard about systems, because I felt like the system would kind of collapse me in, right, and limit me in. But it's actually the opposite. The system will actually can free you, right? When you're in a system that's honoring to you, it can free you to be more expressive, because it becomes a part of the mental process that you don't have to put a lot of energy on. So it allows you to open up your other faculties, which can be amazing. And that's what pre-Chiro can be. Right? Pre-Chiro, when well designed and integrated and allowing people to be onboarded and have this path, they'll find new levels of freedom, find new levels of expression, find new levels of consciousness and awareness, because a lot of the questions that they might have that are wasting their mental energy can be answered, or can be found, or can be discovered. So I love what you're doing, man.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the insight, the love, the heart. I feel it from here, not too far from you, but I feel your message, man. I'm right there with you in how systems can be looked at as something that you're in kind of a different place. If you want to be coming from this intuitive nature and this intuitive place, it's hard to put yourself into a system, but systems create structure. And in the absence of structure, like I said, you're left to what everyone else is doing. And right now, you may have a conditioned pattern that you've created as a pre-Chiro student or as a Chiro student. And I think what you're saying is, take a look at our systems that we've created. You don't have to follow these systems, but if you are in resonance with them, then join us and feel that support. And opening offices around the world, like you said, that carry a certain vibration amongst the community that they're a part of is what we need more of. I mean, we're not in competition as chiropractors. We're trying to promote philosophy of life, of living in harmony with nature, not seeing yourself as being with the environment, but as part of the environment.
Right. And each brand, right, will carry a vibration and will speak to the people that need it. Mm-hmm. And again, I value diversity. So I know that we're going to need some big, awesome, amazing sets of geometry and vibration and brands that are going to speak to a large group of people. And of course, then you'll always have your individuals that reach the other populations that might be a little bit smaller or more unique or whatever it is. But how do we get this to more people?
Right.
And that's what I'm connected to, and providing it in a positive light, right? There are some that go out there, and again, I don't have to mention names. It's all good. We'll skip.
We're happy that you chose the chiropractic path, brother, because let's just imagine you never chose to go to chiropractic school. A lot of what you're creating and a lot of what you're recognizing there's a need for would never. There's been this huge need for chiropractors to kind of come together and get over their ego, dissolve that illusion that we're all separate from each other, that we're all doing different things. We're really just trying to show up for our communities. And if it could be made a little bit easier for the next generation of chiropractors, that there is some consistency or some continuity amongst chiropractors, I think that we've done a great justice, right?
Yeah. That's the goal, right? To pass on to the next generations a little bit better than what we found. That's it. Yeah. Yep. So it's going to take the work of us all.
Thanks for joining us today on this podcast. Appreciate you, my brother Brett. Take care of yourself, man.
Love you, man.
Keep shining the light. Love you too, brother.